Welcome to the place where whispers breathe and shadows listen. Tonight you're not just hearing stories, you're stepping into them. Two tales await you, two doors that should never be opened. But you've already turned the handle, haven't you? The first comes with the fog, and when the fog rolls in, the dead walk among us. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and whatever you do, don't look behind you. Let's begin our journey with the first story. Echoes in the fog. The wind had a voice that night, high and keening, slipping through the cracks of window frames and whispering beneath the doors of the sleeping village. Greystone, a settlement no larger than a pinprick on any map, sat hunched on the northern coast of Cornwall. It was a place carved out of sea spray and stubbornness, where the locals sealed their windows with candle wax and nailed rosemary to their door frames. They knew better than to take chances when the fog rolled in. It came just past midnight, swallowing the moon and blotting the stars like spilled milk across a black cloth. First, it crept down from the hills, thick and white, silent. Then it spread, oozing through alleyways and wrapping around the ancient stone cottages like a shroud. Reverend Thomas Hale stood on the cliffs, lantern in hand, staring out into the haze where the sea should have been. The light barely touched the stone under his feet. "God preserve us," he muttered. Behind him, the church bell gave a single, dull clang, though no one had pulled the rope. Nora Pembroke awoke with the taste of salt on her lips. Her cottage near the shore trembled slightly as the wind pushed against its aging walls. She sat up, her heart already thrumming. From the other room, her daughter Lily whimpered. "It's just the wind," Nora called softly, not believing it. She got up, wrapped a shawl around her shoulders, and moved through the dark house. Outside the window, nothing but white pressed against the glass. Then she heard it, the rhythmic slap of wet footsteps on stone. Not one set, many. Elliot Carver had never believed the old tales. At 17, he was sure they were invented by wrinkled old men who wanted to scare children into staying home at night. He scoffed at salt lines and hung iron charms only to placate his mother. But that night, walking back from the pub just as the fog arrived, he started to rethink everything. The street was empty, yet the silence had weight, heavy, watchful. His boots echoed louder than they should have on the cobblestones. He picked up his pace. Then he saw the figure at the corner by the fishmonger's stall. It was a man, or had been. Waterlogged clothes clung to a skeletal frame. Seaweed dangled from its arms. Its eyes were pits of black. It opened its mouth, and seawater spilled out. Elliot ran. He didn't look back, not even when he heard the splashing behind him, like dozens of feet slapping through puddles. He burst into Nora Pembroke's house without knocking. Nora was already at the window, staring out, her daughter clinging to her side. She turned sharply. "Elliot!" "They're real," he gasped. The drowned ones." She didn't ask what he meant. She didn't need to. Outside, the bells began ringing, all of them. The chapel, the town hall, even the rusted buoy offshore that hadn't chimed in years. By morning, the fog still hadn't lifted. A dozen villagers were missing. Some had vanished from locked homes. Others had been taken from the streets, their doors flung open behind them, salt water soaking their thresholds. Reverend Hale called a meeting in the chapel. People huddled inside, candles trembling in their holders, eyes darting to every shadow. "They come with the fog," Hale said, "as they always have. You all know the stories." "They're more than stories," Nora said. "They took James, my husband and my brother," someone added, "years ago." "They always come for someone," the blacksmith muttered. "Always leave with less than they found." "But we're still here," Hale said. "There must be a reason." Elliot, pale and shaking, stood. "There's something in the sea, something deeper. They serve it," murmurs. "A god?" someone whispered. "A grave," Hale replied. "The sea is a grave that does not forget." The fog didn't lift the next day, or the next. On the third night, they tried to fight back. Elliot, the blacksmith, and 3 others patrolled the streets with iron pokers. Torches in hand, the fog swallowed the light. Shapes moved just out of reach. They heard singing, low and sad, in a language no one spoke anymore. Then came the screams. Only Elliot returned, soaked in brine, lips blue with cold. They didn't even touch us, he said, eyes wide, just looked, and they knew everything. My sins, my fears. They whispered my name. The villagers began to break. Some hid under floorboards, others wandered into the mist, as if drawn by a promise only they could hear. Reverend Hale locked himself in the bell tower and lit every candle he could find. Nora kept her daughter close. They slept in the hearth's light and never opened the windows until Lily disappeared. There was no sound, no broken window, just a trail of wet footprints leading from her bed to the open door. Nora's scream cut through the fog. She searched the village with Elliot, calling Lily's name until her voice broke. Nothing answered but the sea wind. When they returned to the chapel, Hale was waiting. "I found something in the old texts," he said. "There's a way." "A return, a sacrifice?" Elliot guessed. Hale nodded. "One given freely. In place of those taken, a willing soul." Nora stepped forward before she even realized it. "If it brings her back." Elliot grabbed her arm. "Number, there has to be another way." "There isn't," Hale said. "Not if the sea remembers." That night, Nora walked to the cliffs. The fog parted for her like a veil. The figures were waiting, dozens of them, hollow-eyed, soaked. She stepped forward, heart steady. "Take me! Bring her back!" One stepped ahead, a sailor in tattered blue, jaw unhinged and dripping. He reached toward her. His hand was ice. When dawn broke, the fog began to recede. The bells stopped. The villagers crept from their homes, blinking in the pale light. Lily stood at the chapel steps, barefoot, eyes wide. She didn't speak, just looked toward the sea. Elliot sat beside her, one arm around her shoulders. No one ever found Nora's body, but some nights, when the wind is high and the fog creeps low, you can hear a woman singing on the cliffs, her voice mingling with the sea. The villagers seal their windows tight and wait. Because the sea never forgets, and neither do the drowned. Was that scary enough? Let us know in the comments if it got under your skin. Was it what you expected, or did it leave you breathless? Now, let's dive into the next. Brace yourself. The sixth mirror. The rain hadn't let up for days. It tapped ceaselessly on the windows of the old mill house where Malcolm Verne had taken up residence. After the gallery fire in Edinburgh and the critics' increasingly cruel assessments of his latest work, the reclusive painter had retreated to the countryside, seeking silence, isolation, and something harder to define, a clean edge in his thoughts. The mill house had stood empty for years, mice in the walls, rot on the beams, but the bones were solid, the perfect place to lose yourself in a canvas or something else entirely. Malcolm found the mirrors on his third week there. He'd been scouring estate sales and antique shops in nearby towns, looking for inspiration. He liked old things, worn wood, stained silver, dust and memory. The mirrors were bundled together in the back of a barn at a seller's lot outside Barnley. 6 of them, oval, each framed in ornate dark oak with curling ivy motifs. The glass was rippled with age, slightly warped, which he liked. Made everything feel more like a dream. The seller didn't know where they'd come from. Estate from up north, house half flooded, basement find, he'd shrugged. Creepy things, if you ask me. Malcolm didn't ask. He bought them on the spot. He arranged them along one wall of the studio, 5 in a neat arc, one slightly apart, the 6th. That one was taller, heavier, the wood blackened as if singed. He had to wedge a folded matchbook under one leg to keep it from tilting. It started subtly. While painting, a study of light and skin, a model-less experiment in texture, Malcolm glanced up and saw movement in the mirror directly across from him, a figure. He turned, nothing there, just canvas, floor, brushes, the usual disorder of his process. He looked back, empty again. He told himself it was imagination, a trick of light, but it happened again the next night. Then again, only ever in that sixth mirror. He began watching it, first casually, then obsessively. He noticed the figure didn't always move when he did. Sometimes it shifted long after he had stopped. Other times it moved before him, not mimicking, anticipating. One evening, during a thunderstorm that seemed to shake the foundations, he saw it clearly. A man. No, a thing shaped like a man. Long, emaciated limbs, hollow eyes, pale mottled skin that shimmered like damp paper. Its mouth moved, slow and deliberate. No sound. Malcolm backed away, heart hammering. When he turned, the studio was empty, but the air was colder. The lights flickered. He started sleeping with the door locked. He painted less, ate less, sat in front of the mirror for hours, watching. The other 5 mirrors showed only himself and the room. But the 6th, always the 6th, held something else, something waiting. He tried covering it once, draped a black cloth over it. In the morning, the cloth was on the floor, folded, not fallen, folded. He stopped going out. Letters from his agent piled by the door. He hadn't answered his sister's calls in weeks. All that mattered now was the mirror, the connection. He began to paint the figure, at first from memory, then from life. He'd sit before the 6th mirror, sketching as it moved, always in the mirror, never in the room. But the lines were blurring. One night, the figure smiled. Malcolm painted until dawn, fast, fevered strokes. The image grew massive, raw, full of presence. Not aught, not any more. He woke from a trance to find himself standing before the 6th mirror, his hand pressed flat to the glass. The reflection did not match. His mirror hand moved a second too slow, and the face looking back was grinning. He tried to leave the next day, packed a bag, stuffed the keys into his pocket, but the studio door wouldn't open, nor the front, nor the windows. The 6th mirror stood at the center of the room now, though he didn't remember moving it. There were voices in the house, whispers behind walls, soft footfalls in the attic. The other mirrors began to distort, too. Malcolm's reflection became stretched, unfamiliar. In the 6th, the figure was closer. He smashed it, grabbed a mallet from the shed, and drove it straight through the 6th mirror. Glass exploded, wood cracked. Silence. Relief. Then a sound, wet, guttural, like lungs filling. The shards began to move. He backed away as a hand emerged from the frame, not behind the glass, but from the broken wood itself. Long fingers, too many joints, slick with something black. A second hand followed. And then a face. It crawled out like a birth. Malcolm screamed and ran, tripping over canvas and easel. He slammed himself into the studio door. This time it opened. He ran into the night, barefoot, rain cutting at his skin. He didn't stop until he reached the village pub. They found the studio empty, the mirrors gone, everyone, the painting still wet remained, a perfect likeness of the entity, life-sized. They burned it, and the house, salted the ground. Malcolm never painted again. He lives alone now, in a flat, with no mirrors, but sometimes, when the light hits a puddle or the dark TV screen, he sees something behind him, something that doesn't quite follow his movements, something still smiling. Because some reflections are invitations, and some doors never really close. And now, the fog begins to lift, but don't get too comfortable. There are more tales where these came from. If you've survived tonight's stories, be sure to let us know in the comments. Was it the chill you were looking for, or did it leave you with more questions than answers? If you don't want to miss what comes next, make sure you're subscribed, because our journey into the dark has just begun. We'll meet again tomorrow for another night of horror. Until then, keep your lights low and your doors locked.